Now, coming up on the big interview this week, I'll be chatting to one of Northern Ireland's most popular entertainers. Next year, I believe, he's going to be celebrating 30 years in the business. It's Dominic. How are you, sir?
I'm very, very good, Robin. Good to be with you.
So 30 years in the business next year. Has the time flown by?
Well, 30 years, as they say, as a professional, whatever that means, you know. So time has flown by, yeah. Yeah, it's hard to believe to look back at it. And, you know, particularly the early days, you know, whenever I first started, when I got the record contract with Ritz Records, and, you know, and then the working with all the artists that I have worked with down through the years, you look back at it, it's like a flash.
Yeah.
It is.
When I did the introduction at the start there, I didn't know how to introduce you, because some people introduce you as a country artist, but your music kind of spans all genres, doesn't it?
Well, that's the way I like to think it is. I think that all goes back to when I first started singing locally in my hometown of Omagh. It was a case that I was in a band that we did everything, you know. It was like weddings, clubs, dinner dances, private parties, you name it, we played it. So you had to be diverse, and I think that's what I brought to my own personal, professional career. When I first started, and you probably know this yourself, Robin, with your own research, that music really wasn't categorised as much, it wasn't boxed as much. And, you know, national television, radio, it just wasn't, it was just more general. And that was very helpful to me when I first started. That's changed over the years, but I, as an artist, I'm still the same. If I feel the song's right for me, if I feel I can attempt it or I can do it, then I'll have a go, you know.
So growing up in Omagh, did you come from a musical family?
Music was always in and around my home. My mother and father, sadly no longer with us, but my father he loved his music. Now, funny enough, he did like his country music. One singer in particular from my hometown, Brian Call, very much liked what Brian did and that type of music. And another man that I've got to know over the years and worked with many times, Brendan Shine. So that type of thing was in the background. But my mother, now she was completely different. She was a little bit more classical in her ways, you know. And she would have liked the John McCormicks, the Frank Pattersons, that type of thing, the more classical type of Irish genre of music. So that mix was always there. But you know, I was a teenager growing up in the 70s, and the music was vibrant. There was great music throughout the 1970s, you know, and as I said previously in my interview there, that everything was happening and around me. I come from an Irish dancing background. That was my early stages of on stage. So Irish music, Irish traditional music, that was in there as well, you know. So music was always there. But I suppose I have to think my mother would have been the one that was more musical. We had a piano in our house. We were one of the lucky ones. And she always liked to tinkle along on the piano. I was the only one, funny enough, you know, Robin. I've got 4 sisters and 1 brother. And I was the only one that wasn't sent to music classes.
Right.
They all went to music classes. I was sent to Irish dancing. So there you are.
And you made your first stage performance at the age of 6, your Irish dancing in the Omagh Town Hall.
I did indeed, yes, yeah. I was a member of the Seamus Kerrigan School of Irish Dancing. I had great days. I have said it many times that if life was to be lived again, then I would want that to be part of it, because I had really good days there. Great bunch of guys that I danced along with, and the girls as well. You know, we had a lot of fun, good teamwork. And again, I've thought about it on occasions, you know, why the stage come reasonably easy to me, and I think Irish dancing was that was the result. We were competitors, we were brought to competition, we travelled a lot, and we performed in front of audiences, and that was instilled in me from an early age.
So your hometown of Omagh is obviously still very important to you and still very close to your heart. You still live there today, don't you?
Yeah, well, I mean, I live 50% there, and I've lived 50% in England, yeah, you know.
And obviously there's a real kind of sense of community in that town as well, isn't there?
Well, community, it is a small town, although it's grown over the years. It's grown, most definitely has grown since, you know, from my younger days. But there's a very much a very community aspect to the town. It was a market town, although the markets are not what they used to be. But I would think that idea is still part of what Omagh is all about.
And of course, taking us back to the year 1998 when we had that awful tragedy in Omagh, you really saw the community coming together at that stage. What's your memories of the Omagh bomb on that day?
Well, my memories are very vivid of it. I remember that Saturday afternoon, my family and I, we were at home. We had visitors up from the south of Ireland, from Waterford. I remember it as well. The boys were doing as what boys do. And I remember we're sitting out in the kitchen. I don't know, one of the lads came running in because TV just turned immediately that day in Northern Ireland, you know, because They looked for doctors and nurses so quickly. And there was a major appeal put out. And there was one of the two of my boys, I think, had been in the town out there. One of them had been in the town. But the general was that they were all contactable. And it just was pandemonium. It was the confusion of it. And then getting, people would arrive into the house very quickly and say, look, don't go that road, don't go this road. Roads are blocked off, the traffic's are, It took a little bit of time for the word to come through, but about the atrocity, and then of course then it was later that evening when we started to know about how many, well, maybe the possibility of how many deaths were. I think one of the biggest memories I have of that time is that because it was a community and very much mixed, the people who died in the atrocity, both Protestant and Catholic, was going to visit the houses, the wakes. And you would leave a Catholic home, you'd leave a Protestant home, you would leave a Catholic home, and it was like we were in a never-ending circle of visiting the homes and passing respect. And I think the community of Omagh really showed then. What I'd like to think was what the community should be about: people together. And it's funny, you're talking to me now on the 20th anniversary of the Good Friday Agreement, and there have been many changes, and some wonderful changes, and we have a great, the north of Ireland is a great place to live in, and even Belfast in itself, look at the city that it is, and it's just very sad that we can't get our politicians to sit at the table and to organise things and get it, because it's about the people. It's not about the politicians. It's about the people and what the people want. And the younger generations of the day, they've been very fortunate to not experience what that was all about. Thankfully, we got through it, and I definitely don't think we should ever let it go back to what it used to be.
Maybe you should have musicians and entertainers taking over Stormont, because you guys, over the years, performed to any audiences, no matter where, no matter what religion they were, no matter what side of the community. Yeah,
I remember playing in Belfast in my early days. There was a great club atmosphere in the city. And I remember playing, both north, but west, east and west of the city in the different clubs. And I never ever had a problem with my religion. Mind you, I would still give respect to everybody myself, so I didn't see any reason why it should be any different. And I think that's the lovely thing about entertainment, that crossover thing. It doesn't come to the table.
A toast to absent friends.
Baby, write this down.
How did you get the big break? 1989 it was, when you signed with Ritz Records. How did all that come about?
Yes, we've talked about coming up in 30 years. That's the professional side of it.
Yeah.
But I was in bands for probably 10 years even before that, and as doing the local thing, what we spoke about. It was more the local talent competitions that I would have really got involved in. I suppose we can now call that an X Factor. I was very fortunate. I won one or two, but one in particular won me a competition that got me a very minor recording contract. Pirate radio was very strong still in Ireland itself. It was 1988. It was coming to the end of it. It was the changeover. The radio stations were being licensed. And I had started to become, business had become very popular for me most evidently in the northwest regions of Ireland, from Omagh to Strabane and to Derry and to Donegal. And as I say, I had worked the circuit in around the north of Ireland as well. There was a following, the word was getting out, there were people coming to my shows. And my manager of then, who he approached me, a man by the name of Charlie McBrien, who sadly is no longer with us either. But Charlie knew Mick Clerkin very well in Ritz Records. Daniel O'Donnell had joined them in, I think it was 1986, he signed to them. He was on a flow without a doubt at that time. And I then was approached by Mick Clerkin, and I got my recording contract in 1989, and that was the start. That was January 1989. And later that year I released the first album with them, which was an album called Try a Little Kindness, and that was released in September of 1989.
Around about that time as well, you were touring with the great Philomena Begley as well.
Well, that was the first tour I ever did, yeah. The Queen of Country, that was some experience. I think that really set me up for touring as well, because Philomena is what she is. You know, when you meet Philomena, that's the woman she's always been. She never changed.
No, yeah.
You know, she never changed. She's a County Tyrone woman herself. It was a great experience for me. We toured throughout the UK. She was headlining in some of the big theatres. It was great to open up the shows with her. And to this day, we remain great friends. I have a lot of respect for Philomena. And she definitely has helped many young entertainers along the way. And
She's always good at passing on advice and stuff to them, isn't she?
those are the people. I mean, of the following year, I then toured with Charlie Pride for 5 weeks throughout the UK.
Wow.
And both Philomena, and I can say Philomena in Ireland and Charlie through from the American side, and both of them were so approachable. And they wanted to, well, I mean, Philomena knew my background really, but Charlie wanted to know who you were, your background. He wanted to know the band, got to know everybody within 2 nights, knew everybody one-to-one. I took from all that, thankfully from an early days, that no matter who you are, where you work, how big the show becomes, you know, you have got to give time to people. And I've met people along the way. Sadly, that doesn't happen in this business all the time.
Was there ever a time when you maybe were going to move to America full time?
You know, it never hit me. My son Colum's out there. He went there 7, 8 years ago. He's a singer-songwriter out there, making a lovely little niche for himself. Loves it, absolutely loves it. Now, I liked America, but I think it was more a case that I had a family back home in Ireland. And it was a young family at the time. And yes, I recorded 3 albums there. I got a great opportunity to work on with some great musicians, and loved it, loved doing that. But no, I never got that buzz to go and live in America. I like Ireland. I like the country that it is. I've been very fortunate that the UK is very much part of my life as well. So I've been very comfortable in that market. To work in America, not a problem. I love going to it, but I've never had that bite to live in it. No.
Okay, you mentioned your sons there. Obviously, they're in the music business as well. Was that something you always wanted for them, or did that just happen?
You want to see them do well for themselves. Music was always there. In the earlier part of our interview, we talked about the different styles of music, and believe you me, the boys grew up with their own styles of music. That's what they wanted to do, you know. And like Colin went to musical theatre. He got a degree in musical theatre out of Mount View in London, toured with Jesus Christ Superstar with the Bill Kenwright production for a year. But he always had that thing about singer-songwriting and more in America. So that's what he followed, and that's where he is. Barry, he came out of school, he went to Drumtech in London, and he did a couple of years there, and then he wanted to be a drummer. And so, but he always had a great voice, and still to this day has. And although he toured with me for about three to 4 years, he then left me and he joined the Lisa McHugh band for about 9 months. And then he was the Derek Ryan drummer for 4.5 years. But in that all the time, he wanted to go out there and be that singer. And this is what he's doing now. And he launched his own band just over 1.5 years ago. It's a hard game from when I started. But thankfully, there's little inroads happening, and he's been well received. And it's something that he loves doing. And as a father, I've never ever sat, and I've always thought about this, I would never have stood in any one of their way. Give advice, and hope and pray that it all works for them. But for what they want to do, you know, you've got to go out and live the world, and you've got to make your own mistakes as well. I mean, my youngest son, Jonathan, who you probably really don't know too much about, well, he's a singer-songwriter as well. He lives in Glasgow, and he's indie rock, indie pop, I suppose. They've got a great wee band in Glasgow. They're all Northern Ireland band, but they're based out of Glasgow, and they're called False Friends, and they're writing all their own material. Little inroads happening for them at the moment over there, so that's something maybe we can look out for, I hope, in the future. And then my daughter, she went to university in London, and she went to LIPA, and she came out with a degree in business with music, you know, sort of side. She went to LIPA. It was a lovely day being at her graduation. Paul McCartney, of course, gave her the day of graduation, so that was good to be there. But the oldest son, Lee, he lives just outside Belfast. He works in Belfast. He's the only one that has a living. He's a daytime job. He's the wise one. He's the one with the money, you know. So they're all doing well for themselves. Yeah.
And when you first started off, was your own family supportive? Was your mum and dad supportive of your career choice?
Well, my father passed away when I was 17, so he really never got to know this. My mother supported me, loved it, always said I was singing all the wrong songs. you know, because of the type, and you know, I have that tenor voice, that type of thing, and she saw it in completely different ways. But she was supportive.
What's happening at the minute? Are you promoting a new album at the minute?
In the last 6 months, I've released 2 albums. I've released an album of country favourites, which are all classics. You know, when I say classic, I'm talking about songs like Always on My Mind, Card of the County, artists that me and Bobby McGee, that type of thing. It's gone very, very well. And just recently, prior to St. Patrick's Day, I released the Essential Irish collection of 36 Irish tracks. Now, there are 8 new tracks on that particular one, and so that's just been released, so that's early days with that one.
Where's the best places in the world to play? I know you've done Australia, you've done New Zealand, you've done... Where's...
I still have to say that my own Irish audiences are great when we get them.
Yeah.
But Scotland, without a doubt, was the market that really had blossomed for me, and it went hell for leather there, you know. And then I was very fortunate that spread into the UK market. But I think when it starts, the northwest of Ireland started first, and then it just spread into Scotland, and from that it went further afield. But I think that's what I've got to hold dear to, those areas.
Are you an ambitious person?
That's a good question, Robin. I've never...
Is there still things there that you really want to achieve?
I think as an artist, you know, I've been a successful artist with albums and songs. Have I had a hit record? Not really. You know, I've come off the back of good songs, and thankfully entertainment, people have obviously enjoyed my shows. That would be, I think that would be nice to have something that's really recognizable as a song. And from that to be able to help younger artists along the way as well. I think to bring your experience to the stage and to look back and to just and hopefully be able to help other people along the way. I think the business, and I feel at times it's a bit tight at times. I think it needs to be a little bit more open, and for the younger generation to get opportunities and chances. The platform is not what it used to be. You know, they all want to be there, and they see it on, be it X Factors, Britain's Got Talent, jump, 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 I want to be a star. It doesn't work like that.
No.
And when I first started, the venues were there. We got opportunities to go to more places, to graft, to do our trade.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that if you got that break, you were able to deal with it, or to move on to the next platform. That's not there as much as it used to be, and because of that, it's closed in a little bit more. So an artist or a band becomes very popular, and then the management and the teams, they get behind them, and they kind of suck the energy out of the business. And
Yeah.
I'd like that to open up a little bit more, and I'd like to be part of something like that.
Are you always listening out to the radio, listening for new artists up and coming?
I like to listen into what's happening. I think radio has become very samey. I think the powers that be are telling us what to listen to and what to watch, and I really don't think that the general public watch and think like they tell us. So it is nice to hear something new, something fresh, something you feel has got something to progress to the next stage. So yes, I am always listening. I'm always listening for something new.
Has anybody caught your ear recently? You think, yeah, they're going to be big?
I was watching The Voice recently, and the young girl that won it through Tom Jones. And you know, I got everything that Tom Jones said about her. I got everything about it. And I think that freshness, that uniqueness was there. Because, yes, it is only a platform. And what will happen to that young girl next, God only knows. But she does have something to bring to the table. And every now and again, that comes along.
Yeah.
And there's probably loads of it playing in and around little clubs and little places around the cities that we don't know about. And you're always looking and searching for that particular one, you know. So you never know. You could find the next one. We don't know that.
What about the way music is now distributed? You don't have physical CDs anymore. Everything's digital. People are using Spotify. What's your thoughts on that?
I think we're still a little bit lucky in our country, middle of the road, easy listening market. We still have an audience there that still buy the hard copy. Not what it used to be. With that, yeah. What do I think of the digital world? I think it's ruined the industry. And I think if you talk to most of the bigger entertainers, the people who have been fortunate to be very successful, who sell and have sold loads of records, it's definitely a younger technology. Now, we have grown into it, and I've been there from the day of the computer starting, and so I get it, I understand it. I'll even buy an old album when I do it. But I do think it's damaged the industry in itself. And they really, and I suppose they are, the record industries are always looking at ways to get those record sales back up, you know, because there is a big market out there, there's a big audience out there, you know, but it has taken the heart, the soul out of it. You know, that day that you could walk into a record shop and look at an album and read the sleeve and who played on it. I mean, there are people, I was never totally that person. I always liked to see who was playing, but there are people who could quote you, I mean, studios, who played on albums, who was the drummer, the bass guitarist, everybody, because they had that love for it. Because of the digital technology, yeah, record companies will tell you can still get that. You can't get it the same way, you can't. Then the likes of the streamlining of the Spotify's and all, it's not really. The artists like us, we are there and there are people listening and it is another way of being listened to, but we're not getting enough listens, we're not getting enough buys through those to turn that round and say that you could make a living out of it. That's for the big markets, the real big markets. So it's positive, I suppose, in some ways. It's what the youth have got used to. But it has really wrecked the industry, and something needs to happen to help it get back on its feet again.
Oh Lord, she's gone. Let's seize our heartache, looking for a place to happen, looking for a little action, living for the moment, not for loving. She's our heartache, looking for a place to happen. A temporary satisfaction. If you try to hold on, she's gone. Hey!
Never know the one who loves you so.
Well, you don't know me. You so you don't know me.
Do you remember the first record you ever bought?
I do, and funny enough, it wasn't country,
Right.
and it wasn't pop. It was Planksty and a band and an album called Cold Blow on a Rainy Night.
Wow.
Because I was in that, as I say, the Irish dancing was part of my life. I was in that genre of, or friends, groups of people who loved their traditional music. I loved traditional music, but it didn't go my way. I would have sang the Irish ballads and that type of thing, but it didn't go that way for me as a career, but I'd always liked the music. But I remember Planksty very much. So that early days and that hard copy album of that Cold Blow on a Rainy Night, that's the album that I bought.
What about audiences? The Irish audiences have always supported country music, and before that the show bands and stuff like that. Are the audiences still the same today, or are they changing?
I think audiences are the same as such. I think their outlets are completely different. When you talk about show band, I mean, obviously I wasn't there. I came into the next part of it and a little bit further up the line, but I do know enough about it. And the show bands that was an outlet. I mean, you didn't have the pubs, you didn't have the clubs, you just had to go to the dance hall. If you wanted to meet someone, that's where you went, that's where you did your socialising. My career when I first started, I mean, you had what they call the singing lounges. And so that was another way to get into the music industry. So audiences have changed that way. The outlets of today, because of, you know, the holiday breaks that people can have, you know, so groups are organising trips to Spain, trips to Portugal. Even myself, I work in Caribbean cruises and have done with just all Irish entertainment. So the world is easier to get to, you know, or to get to other parts of it. And that has changed how people listen, how people go and support. It has damaged the local entertainment, I would think, more so, because they're getting an opportunity to maybe go away a week to Spain, see 5 or 6, 7 acts, and they get the sun with it and whatever.
Yes, yeah.
And they only have one band to pay, or 2 bands maybe, and maybe you could get 10 acts. So things have changed in many ways. The audiences, as I say, are still there, but in a completely different way. You know, you must look, if you look at the geography of the country, Belfast is a city, Derry is a city, Dublin is a city, Cork's a city, Galway's. The rest of Ireland is rural. You know, the people are, you know, a lot of what Ireland has been built on has been built in from the land, you know, from the infrastructure, from people working on the land and the fishing areas and whatever. So that is where a lot of, I think, that more heart and soul comes from. The city side of it is a completely different. And now life has changed in such a way that our younger generations are becoming more cosmopolitan. You know, if they'd went away to London before or went to Birmingham before, the first thing they would have done was they would have got involved in the local Irish communities. If you needed a job, go to the Irish Centre. Paddy, John will know somebody works on a building site and they'll get you there. And that's how it used to work. But now with technology, you can do everything from your phone. You go to London to work. You'd be very lucky if you go. Well, you'll meet Irish people. But once you start to break into another market, that becomes a very small market, the Irish thing. So we become more cosmopolitan. So it's all changed in many, many ways.
Of course, you're still on the road. What's the rest of the year got in store for you?
Well, I'm still touring the north of Ireland now. May's very busy. You know, we've got shows in Lisburn, we've got shows in Enniskillen, we've shows in Armagh. So we're all over the place in May. I am starting to look at what's going to be my next recording. Column's coming back from America, funny enough. And very shortly we're recording a TV show, The Kerwins, which is with that Aubrey Le Daniel show that's coming very soon. So we're doing that on May. That's going to be good. I'm looking forward to that, to working with both Colm and Barry. It's the three of us, and so we get a chance to get together, sing a few songs together, do solos, we do duets, and we do the trios. You know, so that's going to be fun, and so I'm looking forward to that. And that's something for later in the year.
What's the main piece of advice you would give to any young person starting off who wants to be doing what you're doing?
I think the best advice I think I have to give, having said what I said about the business and what's there, is that it's not as lucrative or as starry-eyed as what it's made out to be. It is if you get there and you get the opportunities, and it's a great life and a great business. So I think get your education, follow up what your talent is, be it as a musician, be it as a singer, be it whatever, and bring it with you. And participate and be as involved as much as possible. If it's a local parish concert, if it's singing for the old people at an old people's home, it's whatever it is, do it. And keep yourself out there, but bring education with it. If it doesn't work, you've got something to fall back on. And if it does work, well then, what can I say?
Dominic, it's been great talking to you as always.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.